Oh, my favorite YouTube music channel just uploaded a video about Porcupine Tree. I sure hope there's something nice to say about him.
That is like you people need to listen to more music because you're if this is in your top five, you what did you hear? Six records?
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
I have to fix this. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Myro, and today, as I promised, I'll be covering a band that I really love and I really enjoy listening to. Not everything, mind you, but most of the things. The band is Porcupine Tree, progressive rock band led by Steven Wilson, British band. And I got to know Porcupine Tree around 2004, I believe, something like that. I remember watching um, a documentary on another band, Opeth, and how did they, make their big album, which was Blackwater Park, and then Deliverance and Damnation. And I watched those documentaries, and I kind of noticed. I mean, it was hard not to notice that the band members, open band members, were talking about Steven Wilson a lot. I mean, in high regard, and Mikkel especially, the leader of Opeth. And I knew that he was a producer, but I didn't know he had his own thing, his own band. So, yeah, I kind of kind of listened a couple of the tracks from Porcupine Tree at that time, and I was like, well, this is not bad at all. I mean, I like that sound. I like that moodier sound that they do. Uh, and Listened a couple of tracks. Listened to In Absentia, which was then last album they released, and after that I've been following their career and Steven Wilson's career a lot. I listened to his stuff as well and his some other projects. So yeah, I think they're a great band. People can say that they maybe are overrated. I don't think they are. I think they're great, and of course they don't have. They have bad records. I will say that much, and so I'm not one of those guys who's gonna say no, they're perfect. Everything they do is perfect. It's million stars and what have you. No, absolutely not. They have at least three records that I don't like that much, and I think and we're gonna talk about them really soon. So I'm not gonna count any EPs, any uh, projects. Or they actually he did a couple. They did a couple of interesting EPs like Nil Recurring and I don't know Voyage 34, but I'm not gonna count them. I'm gonna only count the studio albums, and that's 11 albums in total, including the last one, Closer Continuation from 2022. So yeah, without further ado, let's get this started. At number 11, I have an album that I kind of liked before, digged it, but not anymore. I mean, it was always my least favorite Porcupine Tree record, and it's. I saw a bunch of lists online and watched some YouTube videos as well, and most people have this album last, which is not surprising. And the album, of course, is their debut from 1992 on the Sunday of Life. And mind you, this they were not a band at this point. This was only Steven Wilson basically, and the album in question is you can call it a compilation because it contains 18 tracks from two previous releases by Steven, Tarquin Seaweed Farm and the Nostalgia Factory from 1991. So basically, it's kind of compilation, but officially it's their debut album, and you can tell it's a debut album, and you can see that it's a compilation. I mean, this album is all over the place. When I say all over the place, is you have different kind of direction. It's not coherent at all. There are a bunch of tracks here that I don't know what they are about, like Linton Samuel Dawson, short for LSD. I mean, it's a wacky track with some different, with some strange vocal effects, like cartoonish vocal effects on it. And the only song they re-recorded, actually he re-recorded, Steven Wilson, was Radioactive Toy, by far the best track on the album and one of my favorite, if not the favorite Porcupine Tree track, which is funny since I have this album dead last. Um, And what I like about that song, it is completely different from anything from the album. It is really moody. It has a great Gilmour-esque guitar solo, and you will hear that a lot in the beginning, since Porcupine Tree, especially Steven Wilson, was really heavily inspired by Pink Floyd, and you can clearly hear that in the sound in early couple of albums, and especially in this song as well. That solo is so Gilmour-esque, and it's really good. I really love it. One of their best solos in their entire discography, in my opinion. And like I said, this is, you can call it a solo project by Steven Wilson. He produced, he played every instrument on the album. He used drum machines, of course. The production is not good, and something that he's gonna be known for as a producer, but that's understandable, since it was the debut and no money and stuff. So yeah, I can see that. Radioactive Toy is maybe the best produced song on the album. The others not so much, because we have a couple of tracks here that are actually pretty good, and it could be even better with a better production, like the like Nine Cats. I think that's a great song as well, and The Swallows Dance Above the Sun as well. Uh, what I don't like about this album, besides some of the production, is um, vocal effects that Steven uses on some of these songs is unbearable to me. Like the song, the Nostalgia Factory, for example, could be a really good song without those vocal effects, like similar to Jupiter Island and Linton Samuel Dawson. I really don't like it. It kind of, you know, threw me off first time I listened to the album, and I was kind of disappointed. And the album is really long, mind you. It's 18 tracks, and it kind of be a really slog to get through whole. Besides a couple of tracks that I mentioned, and to be honest, the only song I ever listened from this album, and I always have it on my playlist, is Radioactive Toy. Um, uh, the other thing I want to say about its record, it is the most of the lyrics here were written by Alan Duffy, who was, I believe, Steven's high school friend, and he was credited in a couple of tracks from this album and the next one, Up the Downstairs, as well. But all in all, this was a solo project by Steven Wilson under the name Porcupine Tree, and they will not become a full band until Signify, which is like a couple of albums down the line. So I have this one, it's low to 2.5 stars, and I only have it this high just because of Radioactive Toy. I mean, that song alone is what makes this album, listenable to me in a way. So yes, I have this one at 11 and 2.5 stars. At number 10, I have maybe a controversial pick, but you know what? I don't give a damn. This album is so uninspired and I really don't like it at all. And that is their latest album, Closer Continuation from 2022. I know that some people were really excited for them coming back, and to be honest with you, I was not excited. I kind of expected something like this. It is so uninspired that it makes me sad in a way that they decided to come. I mean, I don't mind them coming back, doing live shows, but doing this kind of album doesn't do it for me. Basically, soon after the tour for the incident was completed, when Steven, decided to disband the band and continue in his solo projects and solo work, uh, 13 years after that, they decided to come back and release a new album. But this time around, and also my problem with this, there is no Colin. Edwin is not playing bass here anymore. So basically, they're a trio: Richard Barbieri, Steven Wilson, and of course Gavin Harrison. So bass duties were handled by Steven himself, and I know this is not the first time he plays the bass in the band, but it kind of bothered me that Colin is not playing here. I think he's a really good bass player. And you may wonder why I have this album solo. But like I said, this album feels so uninspired and tedious at times as well. To put it in today's perspective, it's like you inputted into AI to write a Porcupine Tree album, and this is how this album feels like AI Porcupine Tree, in my opinion. It is bland, it is boring, and I'm never gonna to listen to it again. There's the only decent track that I kind of find amusing and interesting was Dignity, and even that was not that big of a song. I mean, I know that they started writing this album even when Porcupine Tree was disbanded, since Steven and Gavin lived close to each other, so they kind of had the long jam sessions, and some of the songs were basically, created there at that time, like Harridan. But I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like. I don't even like the production on this album as well. I mean, yeah, it's crisp, but it's way too loud and processed. As and Steven vocals, some effects he uses here are also annoying, and he's done that on his solo, some of his solo work as well. So I'm sorry, but I know that some people really like this album, like a comeback record, but I do not. I think it's uninspired and I don't. I want to say cash grab. I don't think it is, but it is not a good album. So I have this at low 2.5 stars. At number nine, and the last Porcupine Tree record that I don't like is their last album before they went on hiatus. So this is The Incident from 2009. Oh boy, what to say about this album? Well, I was really disappointed when this came out. I was really hoping to hear something good as Fear of Blank Planet or Deadwing or In Absentia or something like that. But I was really disappointed when I heard the first single, Time Flies, which is a fine song, but it kind of bothered me. They started, they returned back to those Pink Floydish roots. Basically, this song was an homage to Dogs, and that kind of bothered me a lot because I thought they abandoned that ship a long time ago when they knew their sound in the late 90s. And I know the lyrics are kind of personal to Steven and he's growing up and you know dealing with progression of time and getting old and stuff like that, which is fine. I mean, the song itself is fine. I mean, it is maybe the best song on the album, and that says a lot about the record. It is really long, and like most of their albums, but this one is really not interesting. And the saddest part, maybe the saddest part of this album is that my favorite song on this record is only 1.5 minute long, and the song is The Great Expectation, which is kind of a segue track or something like that. But that song is really beautiful, and it's only minute and a half, and it is sad to say that that's your favorite track out of this record. They initially thought to make, one big song. There are two sides, and on the first side it consists of 14 different tracks that are now going segueing one into another. Basically, they want in short, it's supposed to be one long 54-minute long track, but they in the end decided just to cut it down and into 14 different tracks. And to be honest, it's a really slog and really difficult for me to listen to this album from start to finish. The production again is great. I mean, Steven already mastered his producing skills, and the production is immaculate throughout. Um, uh, but the album is really dull and uninspired as well. And kind of, it was a good thing they went on hiatus after this. And since you can see there is no energy at all, and Steven wanted to do his stuff. I mean, not that this wasn't his stuff, but he kind of, he wanted to get away from Porcupine Tree since there was a pressure on the band to make constantly good records and to make that kind of sound, this kind of sound. So decided to go with his solo career and do his own thing, which is fine because I really like some of his solo work that he did soon after this album was released. Um, some of the tracks here that are actually not bad are The Blind House, I Drive the Hearse, and Bonnie the Cat, other than the songs that I mentioned. But all in all, are really dull album and that I don't listen to at all, except a couple of tracks that I mentioned, and I have them in my on my playlist. But it is still 2.5 stars, not as weak as the first two, but yeah, it's only 2.5. Okay, now we get to the very, very good stuff. The albums that made me love this band, and from this point on, every album I really like, and I have it at 4 stars and up. So I'm gonna start with their second studio album at my number 8. That is Up the Downstairs from 1993. I have it at 4 stars, and this album is also only Steven Wilson, so there is no band here. We have some session musicians helping him out on this one, like Richard Barbieri and Colin Edwill, future full-time band members, but they only contributed to two of the songs here, and everything is actually written by Steven himself. And like I mentioned, Alan Duffy is credited for writing lyrics on some of these tracks. This album is much more cohesive than on Sunday of Life. It has a determined direction where it's going with its sound. It is more prog rocky, space rock, kind of Pink Floyd influenced progressive rock with hints of electronica, like on the song Synesthesia, which is a banger in my opinion. And clearly the influences beside Pink Floyd was Ozric Tentacles as well. The album has all the elements of Porcupine Tree that I love. I really like the way how Steven utilizes those beautiful soundscape. The songs are long but engaging and captivating throughout. Um, there's not much singing on the album. It is mostly an instrumental journey and a great experience overall. And I have to mention there are two versions of this record. There is the original version from 1993 featuring drum machine, but we have the remastered version from 2004, which features Gavin Harrison on drums. And to be honest with you, that version is like, I want to say a million times better, but it just blows this one out of the water. It is great. There's something in Gavin's drumming that really makes this record stand out. The song sounds much more powerful and much more heavier than they were on the original release. And you can, yes, they definitely were influenced heavily by Pink Floyd, but they did a magnificent job at it, to be honest. I really like this album, and and to be honest with you, from the in the last 3 years, this album um, is maybe my most listened to Porcupine Tree record. I really like listening to it from start to finish. The songs here are really good, like the title track, the already mentioned Synesthesia, Burning Sky, Fade Away. Great songs, great guitar passages here, great solos as well. So all in all, a really good step up from the debut, and I have this one, like I said, 4 stars, number 8, Up the Downstairs. At number 7, I have their follow-up album from 1995, The Sky Moves Sideways. This album is the first album that we can say that is kind of a semi-band effort, although it is still Steven Wilson the kind of solo thing, but he wanted to make Porcupine Tree a full band, not just him. And we can hear here Colin Edwin on bass, Richard Barbieri on keyboards, and Chris Maitland on drums. And yeah, this album in film similar fashion to previous record Up the Downstairs is a psychedelic spacey prog rock album that in its structure really similar to Pink Floyd Wish You Were Here. That got mentioned a lot, but when you see it, I mean it is basically there. We have two epic tracks that open and close the album with the same name, and that is The Sky Moves Sideways Phase 1, and that opens the album, and Phase 2 that closes the album, similar to Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here, Shine On Your Crazy Diamonds. Steven incorporated other influences as well, such as indie rock or electronic music, like he did on the previous record. This album is dreamy, it is spacey, it has a great production, and to put it simply put it, it's beautiful. And I really, really like just to put this album on, play it down, lay it down, and enjoy. It has beautiful guitar passages. It is really spacey and dreamy, and the songs are not boring. They're well structured, and yeah, it's funny thing that it only took like couple of years for Steven to release a song such as Lyndon Samuel Dawson, and now we have like those epic tracks, The Sky Moves Sideways, Phase 1, Phase 2, and Moon Loop. That's astonishing to me. So yeah, I have this album at high 4 stars, and it's a great record. At number 6, I have maybe a controversial pick for some. I know many people like this album a lot. I mean, I like it as well, but it kind of dropped off for me in the last couple of years, and that is Deadwing from 2005. And funny thing is, this was the first Porcupine Tree record I actually heard on release day. So back in the day, I really loved it. It was my favorite Porcupine Tree record at that time, but things change, and my biggest problem with this album is only one song, actually, and I'm gonna talk about it soon enough. The album was supposed to be a concept album and like a soundtrack for a movie, for a screenplay that Steven and his friend Mike Benyon wrote, but that kind of was scraped off. So no, they were not able to find someone to to take a look at that script. So Steven decided to use the songs and write a couple of more songs and release it as a Porcupine Tree record. And at that time it was their biggest selling album, so that means something as well. Yeah, and what can I say? My biggest problem, like I said, is one song, and that song being "Shallow." I really don't like that song. It's a straightforward rock song with a basic riff, straightforward riff, shallow lyrics, and I know that Steven did that on purpose with the lyrics and the music itself, but I don't know, it kind of ruins the vibe of the overall sound of the record for me, and I know I always skip that song, and I know they could have used some other song. And they had plenty of B-sides that they never released on the record. I mean, they were released after on some special editions that could fit much better on the overall sound of the record. But yeah, "Shallow" is not a very good song in my opinion. I know many people like it. I do not. But besides "Shallow," other songs are really good. "Halo" is pretty decent song, and "Halo" features a great guitar solo by Adrian Belew. So yeah, that's great. And also we have a couple of other guest appearances by Mikkel Ackerfeld from Opeth, who provided backing vocals on a couple of the tracks and even some guitar solos as well. Um, Overall, the album is played really well. Especially, I like the drumming, as always, by Gavin. He co-wrote a couple of tracks here with Steven, and you can definitely hear his influence and in songwriting of the song "Start of Something Beautiful." It's pretty groovy song in a way. I really like that one. Of course, the centerpiece of the album is "Arriving Somewhere, But Not Here," an epic 12-minute track. I love that song, maybe my favorite of the record. But overall, um, it is a really solid album, but you know, "Shallow" kind of ruined this album for me over the years, so this is why I have it this low. I mean, I still have it at 4 stars. At number 5, I have maybe the most underrated Porcupine Tree record in my opinion, and I really love this one. It really grew on me over the years, and that is "Signify" from 1996. And I've seen a bunch of lists online on videos on YouTube where people put this album dead last, even below the debut and the incident, and I don't see it. I don't see it at all. It just doesn't make any sense. I think this album is great, and this album marks a change in the band sound in general. They moved a bit from that, psychedelic era, Pink Floydish inspired era in the band, and it's losing that space rock vibe from the previous two records, and it's going toward more structured sound, more alternative sound. It's their krautrock album, basically, as many journalists put this album as. From the cover artwork to the songs themselves, I like every song here. The transition between songs is immaculate, and we have some nice variety of tracks here as well. There are some ambient short tracks that add to the overall sound and vibe, the dark atmosphere of the album. There are some bunch of spoken word passages, which I actually really love when people, when bands and musicians, know how to use them, like this album, for example. And it's been a kind of a trend in that era of music, since we have, just in the same year we have Swans releasing their maybe most famous records, the soundtracks for the blind, which uses those field recordings and spoken words quite nicely. So I think Porcupine Tree did really well in that regard as well. Um, Signify, the title track, is a great instrumental piece and with an excellent riff. And fun fact, this song originated as from a demo cover of a song Hallo Gallo by German band Neu, but it evolved into something, into something new, into an original song. And really heavy song as well, one of their heaviest in their earlier period. Um, Songs like Waiting Part 1 and Every Home is Wired are really soothing and eerie in a way. There is a great atmosphere throughout. I really like songs like Sever, and they play that song live a couple of times, and it's a magnificent song in my opinion. All the band members, and just to not forget to mention, this is the first time that they released an album as a band. I mean, they worked on in the studio, recorded it as a band, so it was no longer a Steven Wilson solo project. It was a proper band. So in a way, Signify signifies change in that as well. Besides, change in sound. Um, all the band members here are, provided much needed input, and there's some beautiful soundscapes. I especially like what Richard Barbieri did here with keys. I mean, he's maybe not, flashy keyboard player, but he really knows how to create those soundscapes and make every song, enjoyable. And there's no empty spaces in song. I mean, he always, provides something interesting in the background. So I really like his input on this album, especially Chris Maitland, also great drummer, and he did great well, and Colin Edwin as well. So all in all, it was a full-time, band effort, which I like, and this album really grew on me over the years. And I have to mention that this album contains maybe one of the best Porcupine Tree songs ever, and that is Dark Matter. An epic way to close an album, great atmosphere, great build up, and some tremendous guitar work from Steven Wilson. And yeah, I can definitely see this album grow even higher on my list, but for now, I have it at 4.5 stars at number 5. At number 4, I have their 1999 album, Stupid Dream. Well, what Signify started, they further developed on Stupid Dream. This album has more alternative rock sound, it is more radio friendly. There are no more space rock and long jam parts. Steven Wilson even stated that he had become more interested in songwriting than in creating soundscapes. He wanted to create songs that have great hooks, great melodies, and melodic choruses, and using vocals in a more suitable kind of way. And to be honest, this is the Porcupine Tree I like the most. The songs are more melodic, some of them really poppy, and with some nice engaging hooks, like songs, for example, Piano Lessons or Pure Narcotic. There are also great arrangements here, and it's still retaining that prog rock vibe they had previously, like in the songs Even Less and Don't Hate Me. But also we have more psychedelic tracks as well, which is interesting, like song Baby Dream in a Cellophane. So most of the lyrics here also deal with Wilson's personal experiences with the world and the music industry in general, which will he continued to do on later albums as well. And to be honest, this album feels like an improved version of Over Signify, and And the results here are there are a bunch of melodic hooks throughout the album, and the production as always is immaculate, pure perfection in my opinion. And I have this album at 4.5 stars. At number three, I have the follow-up to Stupid Dreams. So yeah, we basically have three albums in succession: Signify, two Stupid Dream, two Lightbulb Sun now. So yeah, at number three, I have Lightbulb Sun, 4.5 stars as well. And this album continues in a similar vein like Stupid Dream. It has more poppier sound with more conventional songwriting. But even though they continue with that popular commercial sound here, they weren't shy of experimenting and exploring a bit, especially on the second half of the album with the songs like Russia on Ice, Hate Song, and my personal favorite song of the record, Last Chance to Evacuate Planet Earth before it's recycled. This is a two-part song. First part being Winding Shot, Summer 1981, and that part has that nostalgic summery feel to it with some lush guitar, acoustic guitar. But then in the second half of the song, it kind of takes a darker turn, and that disturbing second part of the song begins with a recording of a speech by the leader of the Heaven's Gate cult that was made before they committed, suicide, mass suicide. So it's pretty grim song, and think they did a great job, creating that dark feeling atmosphere. First it gets you engaged with that, lush, nostalgic feel, summery vibe, and then just turns into a complete madness in the end. So I really like what they did here. The production, once again, is fantastic, and there are a bunch of instruments as well used here throughout the record, like banjos, mellotron, harp, and most of the instruments were played by Steven himself. The popular songs here are also quite good, but in my opinion, not as good as, for example, Piano Lesson was on Stupid Dream. But still, I like the title track a lot with some nice lyrics to it as well. But there is also one song that keeps this album like number three. I think it could be even higher. It could be my number two easily. But this song uh, doesn't work for me. The same thing like Shallow didn't work for me on Deadwing, but this one much less so. The song being four chords that made a million. Uh, I don't know. It is in similar fashion. It has that simple riff. Um, the lyrics I don't like that much. I mean, I know it was intentional written to, um, to Wilson basically saying how music industry sucks, but I don't know. It feels like childish to me, to be honest. So I did not like that song that much. But where this album shines, those are more experimental and more proggier tunes in the second half of the album. The songs I already mentioned, Russia on Ice, Hate Song, and Last Chance to Evacuate Planet Earth. So all in all, a fantastic album with some fantastic playing here. And this is the last album to feature the original drummer Chris Maitland before he being replaced by Gavin on In Absentia. So I have this one at 4.5 stars, Lightbulb Sun. At number two, I have their maybe most well-known record, maybe their most famous record, and maybe their most beloved record. I really like it. I have it number two, that is In Absentia from 2002. And what we get when we combine Steven Wilson and Mikhail Ockerfeld from Opeth, well, we get this album. What I mean by that is, well, I already mentioned that Steven produced Blackwater Park, Deliverance, Damnation, and I think Ghost Reveries as well. So his work with Mikhail and Opeth, inspired him to incorporate more metal sound to his songwriting and into his songs, and we get this album, maybe their heaviest record they released so far, and this album marks a new era in the band's sound, overall sound, since after this album they released also heavy stuff like Deadwing and Fear of a Blank Planet in 2007. This album is, like I said, really heavy, really dark, really grim. The lyrics, especially like on the songs Blackest Eyes, the creator has a masterpiece. But even though the album is more heavier and metal infused, it still retains the pop elements from the previous albums. There are some unforgettable, catchy hooks there, like the chorus on Blackest Eyes, or Sound of Music. And just mentioning these tracks make me sing them in my head right now. So this is how catchy they are, especially Blackest Eyes, since the lyrics on that song are really grim and dark, talking about a serial killer. So yeah, the chorus is really joyful in a way and really catchy. Um, Besides those tracks, we have more. There are some instrumental pieces as well, but besides that, there are some eerie and heart-wrenching songs here as well, and maybe my favorites on the album. We have "Heart Attack in a Lay-By" and "Collapse the Light into Earth." Just listen up to "Heart Attack in a Lay-By" and tell me how you feel after listening to it. That song is really haunting, really soul-wrenching, soul-crushingly beautiful, and just when I read the lyrics and listen to the music, it really makes me think of idea of just dying of a heart attack in a lay-by all alone and with life flashing before your eyes. Really devastating and sad song in my opinion, and maybe one of my favorite Porcupine Tree songs, if not my favorite Porcupine Tree song. Uh, and also, I have to not to forget to mention that this is the first album to feature Gavin Harrison after Maitland left the band. And what can I say? Steven couldn't have chosen the better drummer for this album. This his style was more fitting for this more metal-oriented album. And funny thing is, Gavin, before joining the band, was a really well-known session musician, session drummer. He played with King Crimson and a lot of different artists. And Steven was kind of afraid if he's gonna, uh, accept his invite to, be a permanent band member. Um, because he thought that Gavin had already a good paying job basically, and Porcupine Tree were not that famous at that point. But thankfully Gavin accepted and brought something new to the table. He was including in a songwriting process in the next album especially. So Steven did a great job with deciding to pick and ask Gavin to join the band. A fantastic album throughout from start to finish. I really like every song here, and it's easy 5-star record for me. And yeah, what can I say? You have to listen to it. So number two, In Absentia from 2002, 5 stars. And at number one, I have Fear of a Blank Planet from 2007, my favorite Porcupine Tree record. I have it, of course, at 5 stars. This was my favorite Porcupine Tree record as soon as I heard it in 2007, and it still stayed at number one after all of these years. It is their masterpiece. It has only 6 songs, but one of the songs being Anesthetized, an almost 18-minute epic featuring none other than Alexander Živojinovic, or as you may know him professionally, Alex Lifeson from the band Rush. He provided some guitar solos in that song, which are great. My favorite song of this record, and maybe my favorite Porcupine Tree song as well. The lyrics here may be my biggest problem. Uh, they're not as good as they were on In Absentia, for example. Some of these lyrics are kind of funny, even though they're trying to be serious, like on the title track. I mean, for example, grown man. It's funny hearing grown man singing lyrics like "My Xbox is a god to me, my mother is a bitch," etc. I mean, I get the concept and I get what he was trying to say, but it's funny coming from a grown man to sing these lyrics. It always brings a smile to my face. There are some beautiful soundscape again throughout the album. The musicianship is on a whole new level. It's immaculate, maybe their best played album ever. Everyone does their job perfectly, from Richard, Gavin, Colin, and the guests as well. The use of vocal effects here is done perfectly, unlike their last album, for example, that I already mentioned. Just check Way Out of Here, for example, a song that features Robert Fripp doing his magic with sound effects. The songs here are not maybe as catchy as they were on some of the previous records, like on Dead Wing or In Absentia, but sure they're gonna grow on you. Uh, I've been listening to this album a lot since it came out in 2007, and yeah, I was hooked immediately after I heard maybe their catchiest song on the record, and that is the title track. And when I watched that video Well, the video itself is not very good. It is cringe-inducing, but I'm not rating music videos. I'm rating music, so we're good. We're good in that department. Anyway, the album has everything basically. You have the heaviness from In Absentia in Dead Wing. We have pianos, we have acoustic guitars, great soundscapes. The music is multi-layered and interesting throughout, and the the thing is, if you want to write a long song like they did with Anesthetize, I mean, you have to make that song interesting for someone to listen to it from start to finish, and they did a great job in creating that song. It's maybe one a fan favorite live song as well, other being Radioactive Toy, I believe. So all in all, a fantastic album. And I just want to mention, I'm not going to rate that one, but I have to mention they released an EP called Nil Recurring around this time, and that album alone is also really good, especially song Normal, well, which is in my top 10 favorite Porcupine Tree song. And yeah, fantastic, fantastic album, a masterpiece, and an easy 5 stars from me. So yeah, this was an interesting as well. I had a pleasure revisiting all of these albums, especially some of the records I kind of didn't listen to that much, like Signify. And yeah, so this was my ranking. Please tell me what you think and tell me your rankings if you have one. And I'll see you in the next one.